Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So the US Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not states can ban transgender youth healthcare procedures, i.e. butchery and mutilation at the hands of rabid ideologues that don't know that kids are supposed to be kids. They're supposed to be healthy, not be butchered and mutilated at the hands of this ideology that says that you can be something that you're actually not. And obviously, CNN decides that it would be a good idea to have a trans activist lawyer, a trans man, a biological woman that has decided to identify as a man that also happens to be a lawyer. And what better way to talk about this landmark case than to have a trans lawyer, a person that is like very much ideologically inclined to side with the allowing young kids to be butchered and mutilated. Yeah, let's have them on the show and let's have this person talk about why kids need access to this butchery and this madness. So well done, CNN. Your ratings are already the lowest they've been in a very long time. Same with MSNBC and all the other woke platforms, because people are starting to wake up. They're realizing, stop lying to them. But the more and more you have people like this on that continue to gaslight and lie to the public, the more you're going to lose ratings. You think it's like a good thing for this to happen? Think again. Okay, so have a watch of this trans lawyer will tell the Supreme Court tomorrow that castrating children provides critical benefits and claims 2-year-olds also know when they are trans. Have a watch. It's about 4 to 5 minutes long. It's worth watching.
I want to bring in the lawyer who's going to argue this high-profile case before the U.S. Supreme Court, Chase Strangio. Chase, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So the case comes at a time when 26 states have passed laws restricting healthcare treatments for transgender youth, according to a CNN analysis of data from the nonprofit think tank Movement Advancement Project. So how do you plan to argue before the U.S. Supreme Court in a case that could have wide-ranging implications beyond the state of Tennessee?
Well, thank you for having me, Jake. And obviously, this is a critical inflection point for transgender people across the country. We're coming off of an election season where transgender people played an outside role in people's consciousness in terms of the way in which we were situated as a threat to others. And when we look at the map of states that ban this type of evidence-based healthcare, we went from 0 states that had these bans in 2020 to now more than half the country. So before the court tomorrow, the question is really a simple one as I see it. It's really, this is a law that bans medical treatment only when it is prescribed inconsistent with an individual's sex. Our argument is that that treats people differently because of their sex, and therefore the court has to treat it like all other forms of sex discrimination, and that's why it's unconstitutional.
So attorneys representing the state of Tennessee told the U.S. Supreme Court, quote, if the government's theory holds, men who identify as women could claim constitutionally based access to women's bathrooms, women's locker rooms, and women's sports. Accepting that theory would perversely erode women's rights and jeopardize landmark statutes protecting women's equal access to schools, winners' podiums, and beyond. What's your response to that?
Well, I obviously disagree with that premise that allowing transgender women into women's sports or women's bathroom is a threat to women, but it is also not the question before the court in this case. And in fact, it is a totally independent question about whether a law that bans medical care for transgender adolescents discriminates against people based on sex versus these separate cases that preceded any of these healthcare bans will continue to be litigated in the courts regardless of the outcome here. So that clearly is conflating a bunch of different questions. The question before the court tomorrow is about whether banning medical care, overriding the consent of parents, the recommendations of doctors is a violation of equal protection.
What do you say to physicians who are sensitive and supportive of trans kids, obviously don't want suicidal ideation, et cetera, but wonder if there is enough data as of now to prove that it is beneficial to allow these sort of treatments before the age of 18?
So I would say three things. And the first is we have decades of both clinical experience and research data showing that this is medical treatment that provides critical benefits to adolescents who need it. And so this is not new. This is not new medication. And so we have that information. We have long-term studies that track people for 5-6 years. The Supreme Court this week heard arguments in an FDA case in which the FDA referred to long-term as being 6 months of follow-up. Here we have years of follow-up. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing I would say is nobody has to provide this medication to adolescents. These are not doctors being forced to provide this medication. These are doctors who are wanting to treat their patients in the best way that they know how based on the best available evidence to us. And these are young people who may have known since they were 2 years old exactly who they are, who suffered for 6-7 years before they had any relief. And what's happening here, it's not the kids who are consenting to this treatment, it's the parents who are consenting to the treatment. And as a parent, I would say when our children are suffering, we are suffering. And these are parents who love their children, who are listening to the advice of their doctors, of the mainstream medical community, and doing what's right for their kids, and the state of Tennessee has displaced their judgment.
Earlier this year, England's National Health Service stopped prescribing puberty blockers for children with gender dysphoria, claiming that there's, quote, not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness. It does seem as though, whereas Europe used to be more progressive on these issues, they're dialing it back now.
I don't totally agree with that premise. There's a subset of European countries that are imposing some guardrails on the prescription of the care, and the puberty blockers pause is temporary. And of course, there's no comparable restriction on restrictions for hormone therapy for transgender adolescents in the UK. But all of these countries that have taken a look at care in Europe and have put in some caution have not done two things that Tennessee has done. Stripped adolescents of the care that they are receiving, and that is something that Tennessee has done through SB1. And the second is provide no clinical pathway for people to receive the care.
Jace Strangia, right? Co-director, ACLU lawyer, and LGBT and HIV project. Now, I don't think the hormones have necessarily changed Chase's voice so much, because Chase still sounds like a woman, and that's because Chase is still a woman. Chase may have facial hair and short hair trying to be more masculine, but hate to break it to you, mate, you're still a female. You're still a woman. You can't escape that. But this landmark case that is happening in Tennessee isn't just going to have reaching applications in just Tennessee. Like, it's not just going to affect people in Tennessee, right? It could affect the other states as well. And this particular person is arguing on the side of butchery and madness. That should tell you everything. Wait a minute. You are arguing this on the basis of sex. So if that's the case, what's the point in this gender identity madness, which you claim to have? So gender identity doesn't exist, but you're stating that this whole argument is apparently a simple question that you want to debate whether or not it's discrimination on the basis of one's particular sex because they want to be another sex. Is that what you're trying to say in this equation? Because I thought it was just all about gender identity. I thought it was just like this, people were discriminating against one's gender, not one's biological sex. But hey, if you want to go that far, man, you're going to get obliterated in a court of law, especially when it comes to Supreme Court, because I think the last time I checked, the Supreme Court in America still believes in biological sex, and it's not discrimination at all to say that you are male and female and that's it, especially for a young kid. This ain't healthcare, mate. The more you try and say that it's healthcare, the more people are going to screw their nose up it and say, how is it healthcare? Please tell me. If you're going, I'm arguing to a court that this is discrimination because of a young child wanting to be a different sex they were born as, but not gender identity. How does that exactly work? Please explain that to me, man. And how does your so-called access to butchery and madness enable that child to become the opposite sex? If that's what you want to do and you want to go that far, like the medical body and science has not shown at all that you can change your sex. So your argument, while you may think it's a simple one, mate, It's a stupid one because it doesn't work. Where are those long-term studies? Please. I would love to see those long-term studies, because the long-term studies that I have seen from the Cass report and other studies that have been done over a period of time, those studies seem to indicate something completely different to what you're referring to at the moment, mate. So you're saying that this stuff has been around for a very long time, albeit it's been at the forefront of society the last couple of years, quite prominent the last couple of years, and it's become quite crazy at the moment, if you ask me. And you have people like this that seem to think that it's okay for a child to transition. No, leave the kids out of this, man. Leave the kids to enjoy their healthy upbringing, because we don't know, or we do know to some degree, what these hormones and the puberty blockers do. They stop a child's healthy ability to go through puberty, hence why they're called puberty blocking drugs. That should make sense to anybody, right? But alas, it doesn't, because these people want to make it all about feelings, all about what they actually want. And it's our job to argue against them. I can't even believe that we're having to argue against these radicals, but nevertheless, we are. And the fight continues more and more to save and to protect kids. And Jake Tapper also brings up the what's happened in European countries, in the UK, with banning puberty blockers. And Chase straight away goes, oh, it's only it's not a permanent ban. It's only a small ban. It's still a ban. There's a reason why they banned, and I don't think that it's a temporary ban like Chase was referring to. I think it's a full-on ban, like for young kids. Why would they just prematurely ban it and say, what we've found is not good. It's not healthy for young kids to go through this kind of medical treatment that you so refer to as, Chase. It's not. It's anything but. Why would we look at all this and then go, let's lift the temporary ban, aside from them wanting to make more money? That's the only way I can see it. And the only way I can see Chase winning this is because they want to make more money. It's not about kids transitioning. It's never been about kids transitioning, because that is a huge money-making machine. They don't really care about kids' health at all. They only care about the money they're going to make from pushing kids to be sterilized and castrated. That's just barbaric. And they all deserve prison as a result. Prison for the liars and the butchers. And Chase is one of those liars, ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't already aware of that. Lying on national TV. And again, I'll say it, is it any wonder why the US public hates the mainstream media now and doesn't trust them? Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, you be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.